The main thing that is causing us to feel conditioned and limited is that we still feel and perceive a separate world. And when I say that, I don't mean that we see and perceive a dualistic world. I mean that we see and perceive a separate world. So to perceive duality, I'll explain my version of reality, and then you can understand a bit better. When I perceive the world, I don't perceive a separate world. I don't perceive myself as separate from the world, and I don't perceive the world as separate from me. If I go to my highest point of view, there is no world really there. However, something does take place when I step into that role of the character, when I talk to a camera. The thing that takes place is what we could call duality. Duality is absolutely not separate, you see? Duality is what allows me to type words on a keyboard. It's how I distinguish the individual letters on a key that look separate from a dual point of view. You see? They look separate. If they weren't separate, well, I wouldn't even know it was a laptop, right? So this is what we need to understand. In the ignorance, dual keys, separation, I witness the laptop with separate keys. I am at a distance from the laptop. I am inside the head, inside the body, inside the mind. I experience, therefore, a separate world. That is separation. My experience. I experience a laptop. I'm not the witness of the laptop. I am the entire experience. The experience is me. There is a laptop, and I am aware that there is a distance between the body and the laptop, but there's no distance between me and the experience. So whereas I can see the distance between the head and the laptop, I am not inside the head. So there's no distance between me and the laptop. I'm not witnessing experience. I'm not, oh, look, I'm a witness. I am witnessing. I am the witness I'm witness of consciousness. There's no witness, you see? I'm not witnessing an experience. There is just fullness. Fullness of life, fullness of experience, nothing to witness in experience because I am experience. There's no witnessing of that. When you witness a movie, you're the witness of a movie. You're a separate witness observing a subject or an object. You're the subject experiencing an object. You see? The subject is always from the point of view of the mind, which would be in the head looking out of the eyes. There is no subject. You see? The subject is a perceived thing that is also contained and experienced inside our true self, inside consciousness. Experience takes place inside consciousness. Consciousness is experience. So when someone says that I perceive a sound outside of myself, I did a meditation the other day with a client, and he said, I still perceive a distance between me and sounds. Sounds still seem to pull me in as a separate witness, as a separate object, and I witness the sound. That's because we are still experiencing experience from outside experience. Basically, we're not really experiencing experience. We are experiencing a memory of experience. So basically, when the sound takes place, we are remembering an image of a body sitting on a chair, listening to the dog barking in the garden instantaneously. Because the actual experience that took place, you were not at a distance from the dog barking. You were not at a distance from even the experience of you sitting on the chair listening to the dog barking. That was an entire conceptual experience you weren't at a distance from. So basically what's happening is that you're appropriating a memory directly straight after the experience happens, and then imposing I, the separate individual self, witnessed the separate individual sound that came from the dog. But that never happens. You see, the actual experience is that we need to bring our attention to the actual source of experience. So we don't experience the sound in the dog, right? Obviously, we don't experience the sound in the sound. We experience from the point of experience. Wherever experience actually takes place is where we experience everything. You see? which means that anything we experience takes place in the same place. Because how could you experience something outside of experience? Of course you can't. So everything takes place in the same place. It takes place in experience. Experience takes place in consciousness. Consciousness and experience are the same thing. So we could say that experience is like any of you Hindu or Advaita fans out there understand Shakti and Shiva. Shakti is consciousness, Shiva is the world or experience, okay? So experience and consciousness, they're the same thing. But when I say experience, I'm pointing to experience in the form of the world, consciousness in the form of the world. Obviously, the world never takes place. It's always made of consciousness, but we're talking on this relative level right now of language where we can understand what we're talking about. So the sound takes place. What we're actually experiencing is there is a field of hearing, and this field of hearing is a perception. And the perception of hearing, it never takes place in the sound. The sound doesn't have, you open up a sound, it doesn't have hearing inside. Hearing is a field of pure perception, which is a field of consciousness, which is pure consciousness, and it experiences hearing. So the sound takes place in hearing. Could you have a sound that took place outside of hearing? In other words, if hearing didn't exist, the faculty of hearing didn't exist, would there ever be a sound? No, there wouldn't. Because you cannot have sound without hearing. Hearing is where sounds take place. They don't take place on their own relative level that is separate from us. If you ring a bell outside in space, it doesn't make a sound. Sound is not something consistent inside the objects that we perceive. Neither is it consistent in the air. So what we're doing is we are interpreting a perception, and the perception is made of our own mind. So this field of hearing is where experience takes place. Now ask yourself, where does the field of hearing take place? Does the field of hearing take place in your head? Obviously not. Your head is itself a sensation that takes place in the field of sensation. So you have the field of hearing, the field of touching, the field of tasting, the field of sensation. The sensation field is a separate field. The head, your only experience of your head is a sensation, the same likeness with your body, which takes place in its own field. So don't try and appropriate a concept, it takes place in my head, because there's no proof of that. Because your head, where does your head then take place? The experience of your head, it must be taking place somewhere. The experience of your head is obviously not taking place in your head. Right? It doesn't make sense. The experience of your head is taking place somewhere else. Where? It's taking place in the same place as the experience of your sounds. Sounds don't take place outside of you. Your head doesn't take place outside of you. So they're taking place in consciousness. Now, where does consciousness take place? Consciousness takes place here. We have two concepts that we appropriate to here and now. Here is absolute spacelessness. Now is eternity, absolute timelessness. So whereas space is infinite, meaning space is truly what we say space is infinite, beyond space, when we refer to time, we're referring to actual the experience of eternity. But because the mind can only interpret objects, the mind will appropriate over infinite space and infinite timelessness. It'll appropriate infinite length of time and infinite open space, infinite lengthy objective space. But that's obviously the concepts the mind, it's the mind's poetic way of trying to interpret something it cannot comprehend. We, though, being consciousness, can comprehend that. We can comprehend the lack of time, we can comprehend the lack of space. We do it every day. It's called the here and now. Here, we think, is where I always am as a body. No. Here is the experience of presence, the experience of what we are, which is ever present, always taking place. The mind's best interpretation is like, well, it's here. It's where I always am as a body mind. Obviously, it's not. Now, the mind's best interpretation of that is now is the time that is always now. It's the time of 22 past 2 on the 12th of the 12th. No, 20. The mind will say... The mind will basically say now is the time it is now, right? It's the time. Now is whatever time it is that takes place now. Now being 22 2:22. The ultimate now is obviously timelessness. It's the time that always is present, ever-present timelessness, pure infinite nowness. So consciousness takes place in the here and now. Consciousness is the here and now. Consciousness is an eternal now. The eternal now is a conscious now, and it is always here, always present. That's what we mean when we say here and now. So where do we experience from? Here. That's it. We experience here. We are here. Now we need to remove the limitations that hold us and bind us to the body, because the body will think here is in the body. It's not in the body. So this is an investigation that we can do to see, well, my body itself takes place here. It doesn't take place in the body, doesn't take place in the body. The experience of the body is not a perceptual. Take away the vision, close your eyes for a minute. Don't look at my body. Experience your body as it is, without any concepts. There's no size, there's no shape. It's an amorphous, cloud-like, spontaneous arising of sensation. The sensation is pure sensing. We don't experience a sensation of anything. There is no sensation of something. There is just a sensation. For example, when we touch anything, we don't experience the thing we touch. We only experience the sensation. So when it comes to our own body, we're not experiencing the sensation of a body. We're experiencing sensation. Pure sensation. Sensation is a faculty that is inherent in our mind. Sensation doesn't take place in an apple. It doesn't take place in a brick, in a house, in a car. It doesn't take place anywhere other than our own finite mind. Our own finite mind takes place nowhere else other than pure consciousness. Pure consciousness, where does it take place? Here. So what we need to do is remove these limitations from the here and now. Because now, the here and now are direct pointers to infinite eternity. Infinite eternity, lack of limitation. So when people say live in the here and now, this is what they're referring to. So this is a pathway that we can take to see that my body is itself, this sensation of the body is taking place in the same place as my thoughts. Now we think that, oh, my thoughts, but no, they're in my head. Oh, no. You're perceiving a distance which is another object perceived taking place in the same place as every other experience. So when you think, no, my thoughts are in my head, well, no, go to the actual experience of the thought. Where does the experience of the thought take place? Can the experience of a thought take place inside a head? No, because a head is, in actual experience, a sensation. So then you're appropriating, what you're doing is you're then notice now that your mind is attaching itself to another object because it's scared to let go. It thinks it's going to float off into emptiness and die. No, you'll always be here, which is always where you are. So there's nowhere to run, there's nowhere you can run. You'll always be present, ever present. So notice that this blockage in your energy is taking you to the head. Notice the head itself, and you can do this to touch yourself with, like I'm doing now. You can feel that your head is another sensation taking place here, taking place in the same place as every other sensation, every other perception, all taking place now. So this is the here. This is where all experience takes place. This is how you can remove the limitation from your perceptual field. So when I tell you now, I'm not at a distance from experience, of course I'm not. Where would the distance be? There is no distance between me and perception, me and any other form of reality. Me and hearing, me and seeing, me and moving, me and touching. Moving is another sensation. You see, everything is a sensation. This is the one thing to understand. Everything is, the best way that we can put it is like a vibration of consciousness. And a vibration is, from our point of view, in the relative world, as a body-mind, experienced as a sensation. And I mean that literally. Your optic nerves are vibrating. That's a sensation. Your skin is interpreting vibration. That is a sensation. The sounds that you hear is a vibration. On the relative level, the interpretation of this is all vibration which is a sensation. So our entire experience is a sensation, technically. It's obviously not really a sensation, but we experience it as a sensation. Even your taste buds are vibrating. I'm not sure the technical term, but your tongue is essentially creating, with its nerves, a sensation-like experience which is triggered by a vibration. And that is a sensation. The food that you eat is sensational. It's a sensation. So everything is a vibration. We're interpreting a vibration. That's what the mind is for, interpreting vibration. When I say interpreting, we interpret the experience, but the mind is like the tool that we use to focus in on certain vibrations. You see? So we are in consciousness. Consciousness takes place here. It is eternally now. So the here and now are pointers, direct pointers to timeless infinite eternity. Pure infinite being. This is where peace and happiness takes place. It takes place here. It takes place now. There's nowhere else for it to take place. So if you're interested, I have a free community. I do meditations like this every single week. More so in the premium, that's where I'm focusing on these quality of meditations, but nonetheless, free support every single week. I'd love to see you there. Have an amazing day, guys. Take care.